Next question is, I've done quite a bit of thinking on the best vertical to me to hone in on. This feels like a difficult decision. Can you revisit the industry vertical / horizontal specialty and what questions to ask yourself when focusing on a niche area? Great question. So as the asker asks, he says, it feels like a difficult decision. The word feel there is key because it's not really a difficult decision. It just feels like it is. And it's scary. You feel like you're betting your business on it. You feel like, you get this sort of fear of missing out because if you focus on dentists, then all the doctors that come to your website will be like, oh, this guy's not for us. So it's scary. And that's a feeling, but the reality is that it's like magic when you do it because you instantaneously differentiate yourself from virtually all of your competition because nobody wants to specialize on a vertical. It's pretty rare in our space, and it gives you a great answer for the question that we talked about earlier. If you give somebody a proposal and they say, well, you're more than twice as much as the next person, why should we go with you? You'd say, well, because I'm specialized on your industry. Everybody else is just general, and they're going to have to learn everything about your business. It's going to take them forever to get up to speed. I already speak your language. It's just going to decrease the communication latency, increase the percentage chance of the project succeeding, so on and so forth. So I think the easiest thing you can do to increase your prices is to pick a specialty. There's a couple of different ways to specialize your business. So let's say you're sort of a full stack web developer and you know how to do Rails and Node and Angular, and you know all of these things about being a web developer, sort of all over the map. You can take those skills and really change nothing about how you work, but just change how you talk about who you serve on your website by picking a vertical specialty. So a vertical would be like an industry or like a business type. So, like dentistry is a vertical. Cosmetic dentistry is a sub niche of that vertical. Physical therapy or performing musicians or karate schools or Fortune 50 retailers. These are all vertical specialties that you could just choose. You could just pick one and change your website, update your website. Even if you want to go nuts, you can do that. You could test it without updating your website, but you can choose one of these things. And what happens is it's like magic, because as soon as you do that and you make it public, either on your website or just privately to your network, but you let people know about it, I should say. Once you let people know that, for me, now that I'm focusing on credit unions, instantly, everybody I know who, colleagues, friends, family, people on my mailing list, start sending me links like, oh, you got to read this. This is a great article about mobile credit union application, mobile apps for credit unions, or you really need to talk to my credit union because their mobile app stinks, or I know this guy who works at a credit union. You guys would get along great. You should get in contact. So now these are all people who already knew me and already knew what I did. But since I didn't say something like credit unions, like I didn't pick a vertical, I just did mobile consulting. It doesn't trigger what I call a Rolodex moment in anybody's mind. So when you do say, hey, hey, everybody I know, send out an email and a Facebook message maybe to everybody I know and say, hey, I do websites. I'm going to start focusing on dentists. Does anybody know a dentist that they could introduce me to? And what happens is you've got this three-party thing where your friends and family trust you because they know that you're an ethical person who does a good job. Even if they don't understand exactly what you do, they trust you to do a good job. And they know a dentist. Virtually everybody in the United States knows a dentist. So everybody you know is going to be like, yeah, I know a dentist. I know two dentists. I've got a dentist for myself and one for my kids. And their website stinks. So I'm going to introduce you. Or here's his information. Tell him I sent you. So it creates this Rolodex moment where all of a sudden somebody thinks, oh, I should connect this person I trust with this other person I trust. And what it does is it transfers the trust from your third, the middle person, directly to the two people, and it's much easier to have a conversation. It's just amazing. And every time somebody does it, when one of my students finally does it, they always tell me the same thing. It's like magic. It's unbelievable. Okay, so that was a soapbox about vertical specialties. There's another kind of specialty called horizontal specialties, and this is what most developers want to do. They want to become expert at a horizontal technology. They want to get great at continuous integration. They want to go to every startup in Silicon Valley and set up their CI, or they want to set up their DevOps, or they want to optimize their MySQL databases, or something cooler like a NoSQL database, or they want to be amazing at network security. And this is fine. These are good specialties. The tricky part with them is they don't help you at all in your marketing. They're almost barely at all in your marketing if your buyer doesn't understand the thing you do. So if you are trying to sell sort of high-priced professional services and consulting to companies, let's say you do, SQL database optimization. The person you're selling to needs to understand what SQL database optimization is, first of all, and they need to understand how that is possibly going to benefit their business. Because you and I both know that optimizing a SQL database is going to have lots of end user benefits, which will probably translate into business benefits. But the CMO or the CEO of a credit union might not even know what SQL is, never mind how optimizing it is going to affect their business, and never mind if they even have a SQL database in-house anywhere. So it leaves a lot of connecting the dots unconnected, a lot of dots unconnected, I should say, if you do a horizontal specialty. You can do it, and the way to do it is get really, really, really specific and really, really famous. So you write the book on SQL database optimization for O'Reilly. It becomes very popular. It's translated into 7 languages. It ends up on the curriculum of every computer school in the country. All of a sudden, you are like world famous for SQL database optimization. You're speaking at conferences, so on and so forth. You become so famous for it that occasionally somebody, and it'll usually be a lower level person in the organization, some developer will say, like the lead developer, maybe a CTO, probably not a CIO, but maybe, they'll say, oh, we have a SQL database optimization problem. Who's the world's top expert on SQL database optimization? They Google, your book comes up, your speaking engagements come up, and they're like, we need to call this person. But you're depending on them to know that they have a problem that your tool solves. Okay, so it's not super useful from a marketing standpoint until you have established a very, very high degree of credibility worldwide, because you suddenly put yourself in a worldwide competition with everybody who's ever written a book on SQL. Okay, so that was, first we talked about vertical specialties with dentists, and then we talked about horizontal specialties with SQL database optimization. Now I'm going to talk about a middle one called platform optimization. Platform specialization. And platform specialization is when you specialize on a technology. Usually it's a platform, but it might not be. It could be a framework or a library. It could be something. It's usually a platform. But the difference between specializing on a platform and not a horizontal technology is that your buyer does know they have it. Your buyer did decide to use it. Your buyer is 100% familiar with the thing. Usually, this sort of thing will be, like a good platform specialization would be, we optimize Shopify apps, or we optimize Shopify stores. We do conversion rate optimization for Shopify stores. Oh, do you have a Shopify store, dear owner of client business? Oh, you do, and you know it because you're one of the ones that picked it. So even though if you specialize in Shopify conversion rate optimization, that's pretty technical, and you could almost consider it a horizontal, but the highest level buyers inside of the organization know that they use Shopify. So your ideal buyers know that they have, the dots are connected. They know they use Shopify. Same thing goes for Stripe. Same thing goes for Salesforce. Same thing goes for WordPress. Usually in the organization, there is a business person, not a technical person, who is aware of the fact that they, at some point in the past, chose this platform. They're probably locked into it. They might like to leave it, but they know they can't. So they look for experts who will solve whatever problem it is they have with that platform. Okay, those are the three big kinds of specialization. There's another one called demographic specialization, where you specialize in helping CEOs with something, or you specialize in helping soccer moms with something, where it's sort of specific to an externally verifiable factor or facet of the person, but isn't specific to an industry or a technology. But the big ones in tech for us are vertical, horizontal, and platform. And my personal opinion is, if you're going to specialize, do a vertical, because it's the least amount of change, biggest bang for the buck. Okay, that was a lot. I'm still answering. And I'm going to quickly answer the very last piece. The last piece is, how do you validate it? And the answer is, you research it. How do you research it? The quickest thing to do is let's pick a vertical. Let's say, I'll use credit unions because that's the one I'm most recently focused on. Okay, credit unions. I'm going to focus on credit unions. I am good with mobile optimization, mobile user experience. How do I find out what credit unions think about this? Well, I can look at all of the conferences and events that credit union management, my buyers are all in management. I want senior leaders, senior management, board of directors, CEO, C-suite, all that. Where do they go to keep up to date with technology? Well, they go to the local professional development organizations. They go to the national organization. Sometimes they have internal speakers. A lot of them use particular vendors like Fiserv, for example. So I can go to all of these places, look for events where there are speakers, and look at what they're talking about. I can then drill into the speakers and see what products and services they sell, if they're in competition with me at all, how I'm different from them, so on and so forth. So I call this spidering a conference. So the first thing I would do, once you pick a vertical, is look for a conference that serves your buyers in that industry, not their employees, but conferences that your ideal buyers actually attend. So if you're trying to sell to CMOs, CEOs, or something like that, you don't want to go to a web development conference where a bunch of, like coders are going to be hanging out. You want to find out what conferences the CEO goes to, and okay, what are the topics on the menu there? And can I imagine myself speaking here? Do I feel like I'm kind of similar to some of the other speakers? How can I differentiate myself from these other speakers? Does it seem clear that these other speakers have been in business for a long time as consultants? Oh, that's a good sign if they have been. So conferences is the first thing. The next thing, we talked about it earlier, outreach. Do outreach to the people in the target market and say, which is really simple, hey, I really value your input on a new direction I'm thinking about taking with my business. Just take 10 minutes of your time, and I would be happy to answer any questions you have about mobile, whatever your expertise is. In my case, be mobile strategy. And you'd be surprised, most people get like a 1 in 10 hit rate for that. So of 10 people you reach out to in the target market, one of them will get on the phone with you for 5-10 minutes. And usually it turns into more like 15-20 minutes, because you asking them about their job is usually something they like. They don't get to talk about their job that much. So first step is to pick one, spider a conference, and start to learn. It's the fastest way to learn about a vertical. And the second one is to do direct outreach to people in the audience. And last bit on that, it's especially helpful if you pick a vertical where you already know people. So past clients, friends and family businesses. If you're maybe thinking about targeting dentists and your uncle's a dentist, get on the phone with them and ask them what sort of, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you change about your business? What would you change about the industry? What sorts of things are happening that have everybody nervous or excited about opportunities? That kind of thing.